Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. This is Satpal Singh from Nanak Naam. Thank you all for joining me. We'll just give it a few more minutes before we start today's session. We should have everyone on YouTube and on Instagram and on Facebook joining us today. Please do leave us a comment. We'll try and read out as much as we can. I'm joined today by my wife, Harmeet Kaur.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
So she'll be reading your comments and she will be reading out your questions as well. We've had a lot of questions from last week's sessions. So we're going to try and get through as much of those as possible as well. So please leave us a comment. Let us know where you are viewing from. Give us your name. And we're going to try our very best to get through as many of your comments and questions as possible today.
So lots of people tuning in and joining us. Harjinder Singh, Sandhu from Malaysia. And we've got Ranveer Kaur saying she's from Sweden. Gur Fateh Ji to you. From New Jersey. And Mini Kaur Sangat is joining us on Facebook as well. Excellent. And Catherine Doyle from Lake District.
Nice to see you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Sandy Gill from Vancouver. Thank you for joining us. Jasleen from Sweden. From Mumbai, Malaysia, Toronto. Excellent. Thank you for joining us so much. Thank you to Sukadi, who's also very kindly just donated through the YouTube chat facility as well. Please do keep your support coming in. Please do keep your donations coming in as well. So what we're going to do is, this week's session is going to be trying to follow up from last week, where we talked about this change of mentality, which was this renter's mind. And a lot of questions that came in from that, we're going to be looking at how do we practically live those things. I'm going to answer any questions that were related to last week's session. I'm only going to be answering questions that are to do with your mental well-being, your spiritual well-being. We do get a lot of questions coming in around specific religious practices or specific terminology, anything to do with Sikhi in terms of practices or religions or rules. And I'm not going to be answering any of those kind of questions. Mainly, I'm going to be looking at questions to do with your mental state, which is where I believe Gurbani is really trying to take us. So before we do any of that, I want us to start this week with a simple guided meditation. It means that we can also allow for a few more minutes before people join us. So I want us, wherever you are, if you can just try and get into a comfortable position and just spend a few minutes with me as we do a simple meditation to get us into the right frame of mind, to try and understand the message of Gurbani that we're going to be talking about. So try to sit comfortably. If you are listening to this recording later on and you're driving or you're walking, just try and see if you can be aware of your present moment surroundings, and just notice if your mind is somewhere else, or can you be present in this moment as you are listening to this. So get comfortable. Just close your eyes and give yourself a few moments to center yourself, to notice if your mind is wandering in lots of different directions. Just be aware, what is your mind doing? And as soon as you realize that your mind is busy and active, worrying about the future or reliving some moment in the past, try and see if you can bring your attention to the present moment, just where you are. Notice where you're sitting or where you're standing. Just become aware of what is that experience that you are having right now. What does it feel like? What does it feel like to be sitting where you are or standing where you are right now? Your mind will try to give a label to the present experience. Just see if you can experience this moment without the mind or relying on your mind to try and quantify or qualify what the experience is. Without your mind trying to tell you how it is, simply feel what this moment is. What are the things that are present right now that you have overlooked? The temperature of your skin. How hot or cold do you feel? How comfortable or uncomfortable are you? What does your breath feel like when you bring your attention to your breathing? What are the subtle movements happening in your body as you breathe in and breathe out? Notice the smaller, finer details that are happening in this moment that you could be thankful for, but because your mind is always elsewhere, you simply overlook all the little joys that you could be experiencing in this moment. And take a moment as you acknowledge your body, acknowledge your environment, acknowledge your comforts, acknowledge even any discomforts or problems that you face in life. As you are aware of all of these things, take a moment to just recognize that one vast, great, universal power that creates it all and sustains it all. And within your own mind, take a moment to bow down in reverence to that oneness, to that universal power that is behind everything, behind your breath, behind the day, the sun, the moon, behind all other people, behind all other events and circumstances, and just take a moment to bow down to that single, vast, creative power that is within you and within everyone else. Take one last deep breath in and out, and open your eyes. Thank you so much for joining me on that meditation, and I hope you find those meditations useful, simple little techniques that you can do at any time to bring yourself back when your mind is getting lost in a lot of worries and anxiety. You can always bring yourself back just by practicing these little things. And a lot of the times I get questions that I talk about meditation, I talk about oneness, what practical ways can we actually do it? And these are some simple techniques that hopefully I can show you what you can do at any time to just bring yourself to a moment of stillness, to a moment of calm and tranquility. Always remember that the Nanak Naam charity is trying as much as possible to create content for you that you can access in your own time. So we have guided meditations on our YouTube channel. So if you search online Nanak Naam guided meditations, there's a playlist on YouTube where you can go through and try a range of different meditations. Some are shorter and some are longer. So please do try those, because everything that we talk about when it comes to guided meditation, there's really no substitute for actually living it and practicing it, trying out the meditations. And meditation is very much trial and error. You have to keep learning how to become better at it as well. So please do try those meditations.
So before we go into the questions, just a few shout outs and say thank you to everybody joining in. Jani Finner from Finland, Breathe Bogle from sunny Birmingham. It's a lovely sunny day everywhere in the UK today. And also Edik Kashishian, who's saying God is listening to God, Waheguru.
Amazing.
And, so many people, gosh, it's like this, I can't even go through the list.
Thank you
Naomi
so
Bentley
much.
from Italy. Thank you for all your comments and all your encouragement and praise that's coming in. And as we said, we're going to start with, there were so many questions from last week's session that we weren't able to keep up with. There was only a few questions that were able to be answered last week. So we're going to start with a few of the key questions that we wanted to cover today. So the first one that somebody asked last week is, if we care to live in a mindset that each moment is temporary, then are we not always waiting for the next moment? If we care to live in a mindset that each moment is temporary, then are we not always waiting for the next moment?
So that's a really good question that's come in about how do you live in the present moment without then worrying about the next moment? How do you know that the present moment is temporary, but not focus on the next moment itself? So please do also send us in your comments if you're having any issues with viewing the video or with being able to listen to the sound or hear any audio. If there's any technical issues, please let us know so we can pick those up as much as possible. And if you can hear us clearly, please let us know as well. So the first question is around, if we understand that the present moment is temporary and everything right now is temporary, and this is really picking up from where we left off last week, where I talked about a new mindset in difficult times, which was the difference between the mindset of the owner and the mindset of the renter, someone who is renting this body, somebody who's renting the life that we live, all of our comforts. We live with the mentality that everything must be given back to the source from where it came from, and even our breath is rented. So if we live in the moment knowing that everything is rented, everything is temporary, are we not always waiting for the next moment? And the way to answer that question is really to help people try to experience what is the present moment. And the meditation we did just at the beginning, you will notice, and maybe this is an exercise for you to do the next time you try this present moment meditation, is my mind now in the present moment, or has my mind wandered somewhere else? Is my mind right here, right now, enjoying the simplicity of what is happening right now in this moment? Is my mind actually here? And it's not a intellectual exercise. It's really something for you to reflect on when you're in that state. I don't believe that when you are aware that every moment is temporary, that you are constantly thinking about the next moment. And we talked about this analogy last week, where if you took your life and experienced it the way you do when you go on holiday, you go on holiday knowing that this experience is temporary. But you don't always, when you're on holiday, think about coming back home. You know it's coming, you know that the holiday is going to come to an end, but you don't spend all of your time thinking about coming back home. You spend your time knowing that this is not going to last forever, so I'm really going to enjoy the experience. So being in the present moment shouldn't be a experience where your mind is still thinking about another moment. Your mind tends to have a tendency to go in the past and think about issues, problems that you've had in the past, or it goes into worries about the future. And neither of those are the present moment experience. But really, that is something that you can try and just notice within yourself when you're having this present moment experience, enjoying that moment, being grateful and thankful in that moment really is where that bliss comes from.
So just related to that, as a practical example, Jash Gaur on YouTube is asking, I'm having a problem that I can't concentrate when I do my part. Can you give any suggestions or tips how to stay present and be able to concentrate?
Okay, so we have another question coming up later on, which is also going to be around how do I keep my mind and my heart together during the meditation, during the prayers or any spiritual practice that I'm doing. And I want to answer some of these questions by actually pointing you to videos that we've got available right now on YouTube. And one of the most important things, like I said before, is the content that we create is there for you to access at any time. So for the last couple of years, Nanak Nam has been creating videos. And some of the times when we get questions coming in, it's important for the guys asking the question to just go and check our YouTube channel first, because a lot of those questions will be answered already. So we have a video online which is about 9 ways to connect during prayers, or 9 ways to connect during Nitnem. So please go on our YouTube channel and have a look at it, and that gives you 9 very practical steps that you can take on how to connect during your spiritual practice.
So the second question is from Stevie Singh, who is asking, I have struggled extremely since I accepted the path of Sikhi into my life, growing up a Catholic and spending most of my later years as a Christian follower. I am constantly being challenged by those in my life from before. The main thing that is always brought up is that Jesus is the only way, the truth, and the life. How do I go about dealing with this?
So this is a great question from Stevie Singh, which he's asking a question around how do I understand how to deal with people who are constantly trying to get me to go back to my old spiritual practice. So he says that he was brought up a Christian, and people are always telling him that Jesus is the only way. And they're quoting from the Bible where Jesus is quoted as saying, I am the way, I am the truth and the life. No one shall find the kingdom of my Father except through me. I am the way. And this is something that's happened in almost all spiritual traditions. There have been lines, there have been quotes within the scripture that says, this is the way. So in the Bhagavad Gita, I believe Krishna says to Arjun that I am the way. You will find the way to divinity through me. If you bow to my feet, you will come and you will find the way. In Guru Saaheb Jee, we have lines that say something to the effect of Bin Satgur Kine na payo. Nobody has found enlightenment without the true Guru. And what has happened is practitioners of that religion use these lines as a way to justify that theirs is the only path. And Christians, and certainly missionary Christians, will use this as justification to convert the whole world to Christianity, believing the sentence where Jesus says, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. The problem is that people who are pushing one religion over another are not doing it from a place of their own experience. They are literally taking the lines out of the scripture and enforcing on other people. And you get this even on comments on our YouTube channel, predominantly with Christians and Muslims who forcefully say, submit to Jesus, Jesus is the only way, or Allah is the only way, and we will only find liberation through Allah, basically trying to negate everything that is being taught in the other traditions. And what these people haven't understood is what Jesus was trying to say when he said, I am the way. When Jesus said, I am the way, he doesn't mean Jesus, the body. He isn't at that point talking about Jesus Christ, the individual. What he's talking about when he says I am is Christ consciousness. That through your own I amness, through awareness of your own self, the experience that Jesus is going through when he says, I am the only way, nobody will find the way to God except through me. What he's giving all of his followers is an instruction. Go within yourself and find that same experience that Jesus has found. And when people are saying to you that you need to go back to your old tradition, you need to only follow Christianity, that's the only way, what I see is that a lot of the focus of Guru Saaheb Jee and Sikhi is to help you get connected with that divine experience. Guru Granth Sahib Ji and certainly some of the Indian spiritual traditions are not trying to make you followers. They are trying to make you enlightened. So Guru Granth Sahib Ji is focused on you becoming Christ-like, becoming the highest version of your own spiritual self. So those who are saying Jesus is the only way, what they're saying is you can only follow Jesus. What the gurus are saying is you need to become like that. And when you become like that, you will realize that is the only way. The only way to connect to the divine is to go within yourself and realize that divinity that is within you. So you need to become Christ-like. And the reason why the gurus talk the way they do, all the effort that they put in Gurbani to help you connect is because they want you to become Christ-like. They don't want you to become followers of the guru. They want you to become enlightened versions of yourself as well. So that's how I would handle that for anyone who's being forced or being challenged all the time, saying you're not following your own religion, you're not following the right religion. Well, all traditions are trying to make you connect in this way. Every spiritual tradition is trying to make you become more aware that you can experience what every religion has called as God, Allah, Waheguru, Ram, Krishna. All of these things are the same experience that humans of different generations and different backgrounds and cultures have all experienced. How do you get back into that? Is you need to also become like that.
And just one of the comments from Devi Kirat Kaur saying, I've read the Gospel of Thomas and Nag Hammadi through the lens of what I'm learning in Sikhi and find the older teachings of Jesus to be in harmony with what Guru Nanak Dev Ji is teaching us.
So if anyone is having any issues, we're getting some comments coming in that people can't hear us. If there are any issues with volume, just let us know. We'll try and improve them as much as possible as well.
And thank you to, I know there's been some questions on the Facebook group regarding Ardas and Hukam. Thank you to Justin Mann, who's put a link to the YouTube video about why do we do Ardas and the relevant Hukam YouTube video there. Hopefully we'll be able to come back to that. But I'm just going to move on to the next question for now, which is by Sheena, who is asking how to stay in Anand Chadee Kalaa all the time.
So thank you, Sheena, for your question. I know last time you tried to post the question quite a few times and we weren't able to answer it. The question specifically around how do you be in bliss all the time, definitely watch that video that we went live with last week that was all about how do you remove suffering and remain in this moment of bliss by letting go. The only reason you're not in bliss is because you might be holding on to things, and practicing and becoming aware of what it is that you're holding on to. Are you holding on to your story? Are you holding on to your negative mental chatter? Are you holding on to a narrative that's telling you that something is not good and something is not bad? Become aware of what it is that what's causing your mind to tell you that you're in negativity, and then ask yourself the genuine question, what is my negativity right now in this moment? Where am I right now in this moment? So please go back and have a look at last week's video. Also, there is a specific video called What is Chadee Kalaa? on our YouTube channel. Just search for Nanak Naam, what is Chadee Kalaa, and there's about a 5-minute video that goes into specific detail about that as well. So thank you so much for your question, Sheena.
And just a comment for the previous question about Jesus, Kimberly Vernaccio is saying, as a practicing Christian, I agree. Thank you for your comment, and thank you for confirming that the Facebook sound should be clear. The broadcast seems to be fine. Maybe it's just the audio feed which is cutting in and out. Otherwise, so the volume hopefully should be fine. If that's not the case, please let us know.
If you are finding any difficulties accessing any of the live feeds, we are live right now on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. So if you are struggling with any particular channel, please go to some of the other ones. I think YouTube is very clear right now. And our Instagram channel, we're not seeing any comments around the volume for that. So anyone on Facebook who is struggling right now, please go and check us out on our YouTube and our Instagram channel. We're live, and this entire video will be posted straight afterwards as well. So apologies to anyone who's not able to hear the volume clearly.
Next question. Is it okay to watch Netflix and read books on topics other than Sikhi? Does the reading or seeing take your thoughts away from Waheguru Ji?
That's a really important question, because it's asking us, are we creating barriers by living what most people would call quite an ordinary, normal life? Most people are living in the world and spend their free time in pursuit of pleasures, in pursuit of joy, relaxation, trying to get away from the stresses of work. And a lot of the time we are not able to reconcile the message that we're getting from our spiritual teachers, which is saying 24 hours a day, you need to be in a meditative state. So how do I reconcile those two? And the way I would see it is, always remember that the spiritual tradition brought by the gurus, that we would call Sikhi or Gurmat, is not the monk tradition. And I think that's something very important, a point that needs to be made. Almost all the other spiritual traditions, certainly the Indian spiritual traditions, are monk-based traditions. The writings were written by monks. The teachings were by monks. And what I mean by monks is people who left their homes, predominantly men, who didn't get married, didn't have wives, houses, jobs, children, didn't have the daily struggles of just day-to-day living, having a mortgage, having to study, go to school, completing assignments, having deadlines and projects. Remember that the tradition of the gurus came about as a response to all the monk traditions that were out there, not to challenge their wisdom, but to challenge their practices and to provide a way that was for the common man. So whenever you ask yourself this question, whenever you're feeling guilty about, am I allowed to even watch TV? Should I just be in a room meditating 24 hours a day? Well, if that was the path, then that was the path of the monk. The monk is the one who gives up their home, goes to meditate in a cave or a forest, or joins an ashram. But the ordinary person who is living a worldly life, who is having a job, having children to look after, having to think about their finances, worrying about doing the grocery shopping and cooking their next meal, a lot of that day-to-day grind really does take a toll on your mind. And it is fine within the worldly context to relax. There is no limitation on knowledge. There's no reason why you should feel that you can't try to learn things around the world. If you watch any nature documentaries, you learn so much about the beauty of the world. And one of the things that I try to do is, for me, I can try and find the message that I've been learning in my spiritual practice. How do I see that in what I'm watching? How do I see that when I watch nature programs? It very much complements my spiritual practice, because I'm able to see, even through a screen, I'm able to see the beauty of creation. I'm able to be in awe of the creative power of that oneness. Nature's power I'm able to see with my eyes. If I'm able to read knowledge about different things, even if it's about financing, about investment, if I read a book about parenting, all of these things are part of the world, and we are not the tradition that sees the world as opposite to our spiritual practice. For us, the spiritual practice is seeing spirituality in the world, being in the world. Everything that we see is spirituality. Everything that we see is a reflection of that divine power. So everything in the world is that divine power, but you do need to be aware of how those things that you're reading and that you're watching, how do they impact your emotions? Do they bring up lustful thoughts? Do they bring up thoughts of divisiveness? Sometimes you watch TV programs where you might think, oh, look how terrible those people are. As soon as you do that, you need to bring your thoughts back. You need to see whether there's a conflict between how your mind is reacting to what you're watching or reading and how your spiritual practice has taught you. If there's a part of your mind that's judging the other person, looking down at the other person, or looking lustfully at another person, then you need to reflect and say, is this now healthy for my spiritual practice? So you need to ask yourself, is your spiritual practice being hindered or being complemented by your worldly lifestyle? And that's the way that you have to judge that yourself. It's not about cutting things out of your life. It's not about saying, I'm not going to watch TV. I'm not going to watch Netflix or YouTube, or I'm not going to read anything else. It's about constantly prioritizing your mindset. The mindset that the spiritual tradition is teaching you is one of seeing oneness in all, seeing the good in everyone, being in a state of peace, not looking down upon others, not judging others. So can everything that you do be a complement to that spiritual way of thinking? And that's really only something that you can decide for yourself within your own mind. And feel free to think about the things that you watch and the things that you read as your influences. One of the most important things that the spiritual masters teach us is your Sangat is very important in your spiritual practice. Who you keep as your company. And I don't just define Sangat as the people that we keep around us, the friends or the spiritual practitioners around us. For me, who influences you is your Sangat. So the social media channels that you follow, the famous people who you're trying to be like on social media, the news that you follow, the music that you listen to, all of those things are your Sangat. All of those things are the things that influence you. I call Sangat your influences. So anything that's influencing you, feel free to try and think about, is this a positive influence on me? Is this having a good impact on me, or is this having a negative impact on me, on my spiritual progress? And then you'll be able to decide for yourself who your influences should be, who are the things and what are the things that you should be reading and watching and following. Thank you so much for that question.
I just want to cut for a minute to some of the, go to some of the questions that are on Facebook, because it seems to be a common theme actually coming up on both, is this concept of hukum and prayer. And so Mandeep Mathwan is asking, should one pray if hukum is everything? And another person's asking about the whole role of relevance of hukum in this adversity. Is there a, in the ongoing adversity, this is Harneet Singh asking, in the ongoing adversity, why shouldn't we pray for those who are in pain at present? I heard you talking in one of your videos on YouTube that you don't believe so.
Okay, so the question is around, should we pray for the well-being of others? Should we pray for anything if everything is within that divine will? There's a difficult question that needs to be asked, which is, when you pray, does it work? When you stand and do your ardas, does it work? And most of the time, anyone who's being honest with themselves will know that if you stand up and ask for something, if you pray for something, if you look to the heavens and hope that God is listening, you know, if you're honest with yourself, that either it can come true, whatever you're praying for, or it may not come true. The way most people justify that, the way they try and answer that is that, well, you pray, and if you've prayed well, if you've prayed with a true heart, then God will decide what is right for you. The people know, the ones who are telling you, ask and you shall receive, they know that it doesn't work like that. The question that I've always asked people is, if prayer works, if praying, and by prayer I mean asking some God to answer your prayer and to do what it is that you want, you achieve whatever it is that you want them to achieve. Ask yourself this question: if everyone today prayed honestly that they should win the lottery, would everyone win the lottery? And the obvious answer is no, they wouldn't. And the only way that people reconcile that is they say, well, God knows what is right for you. My point is, if that universal power knows what is right for you, that is what is called hukam. Hukam means you need to accept as the universal power gives, you receive. Whatever the universe is going to give you is what the universe is going to do. Your prayer has had no impact on how the world works, because you cannot understand why the universe is doing what you want it to do. You can't understand why the universe is doing what it's doing. And by you asking, what you're really saying to the universe is, I don't accept what you're doing. I want you to do what I want you to do. Us, in our small thinking, we think that we understand the universe and why the universe is doing what it's doing. So we think that if we ask, the universe will change its entire plan just to suit our needs. And I don't believe that Guru Nanak came to teach you how to pray to God. I think Guru Nanak Dev Ji came to show you what the system of the universe is that he called hukam. How does the universe work, and how much peace do we get when we fall in line with hukam? There's a very important lecture that we just released on Friday called Guru Nanak's Religion. I really hope that everyone here watching goes onto YouTube afterwards and looks for that lecture and watches that lecture called What is Guru Nanak's Religion? And in that, I specifically talk about how hukam, accepting the natural order of life, accepting that divine command, or whatever you want to, however you want to phrase it, acceptance means radical non-resistance. Let me say that again. Acceptance means a radical approach to non-resistance. Whatever the universe is doing, can I be in alignment with that for his good? Guru Nanak Dev Ji has a very important line which I think summarizes his approach to how we deal with ardas. He says, Ji jant sab sharan tumhare, sarb chint tud paase. He says, all beings are under your protection. All of the universe works according to that universal power. And all worries are yours. You take on everyone's worries. Guru Nanak Dev Ji is talking to that universal power and saying, you are deciding what's happening with everyone. Then he says an important line, Jo tud paave soi changa, ik nanak ki ardase. Whatever that universal power, God, divine is doing, I want that to be my state of mind. My state of mind should be in alignment with what you're doing. Whatever you do, jo tud paave soi changa. Let me accept that as good. Let me accept that. Ik nanak ki ardase. Guru Nanak says, I only have one ardas. I only have one prayer. Let me accept whatever you do. And as soon as you pray to change the reality of hukam, as soon as you pray to change what life is trying to do, what you're saying is, I don't accept. And as soon as you say, I don't accept, I want life to change, I want life to be different, you put yourself into suffering, because then you are resisting the natural flow of life. You're resisting what the universe is doing. So being in alignment with the divine flow, with the natural order, with hukam, is your key to spiritual enlightenment. And Gurbani says time and time again, Guru says time and time again, one who recognizes hukam finds the divine. When you accept how life is and what the universe is doing, you'll realize that divinity is here. God is here. Whatever you see is God. "Ye vis sansar tum dekhte, ye har ka roop hai, har roop nadri aaya." This comes in Anand Sahib. The whole world that you can see, this is God. This is what God looks like. So you have to see that what is happening in life is God. So you can't ask God to change God. You can't ask life to change life. All you can do is go into that acceptance of what life is doing. So I hope that clarifies. And please do have a look at that video called The Religion of Guru Nanak. What is Guru Nanak's religion? And there are so many videos on our YouTube channel specifically around hukam. It's literally the most important concept for you to understand. How does hukam work and how that is your spiritual practice?
So going to the next question, which is from Isha Arora. I want to ask how to get over guilt. And another related question from somebody else was similar. People keep reminding me of what I've done. How can I stop thinking about it and not blaming myself?
So the question is around guilt and blaming yourself and not forgiving yourself. How do I forgive myself? How do I move on? How do I stop myself from blaming myself for the things that I've done? When we understand that every single person acts in what they feel is best at that moment, every single person and every action that they have done, they did assuming and thinking that that was best. Either it was best for them, or it was best for someone else, or this was the only choice that they had. Every human being acts in this way where they think what I'm doing right now is the right thing to do. Nobody acts thinking this is the wrong thing to do. Nobody thinks, even if they know what they're doing may hurt someone, even if they know what they're doing is illegal or not allowed or will be frowned upon, even then, what they're doing is, I think this is right for me. So everything that you have done in your past is what you thought at that moment was acceptable to do, what you thought was the right thing to do. Now, the only place where guilt comes from is where you now in this present moment know better. When you did an action, at that point you thought it was best. But then after that, the consequences were maybe not in your control, were not what you expected. It didn't turn out how you wanted it to. Or you did something where you knew you were going to hurt someone and now you regret hurting that person, but you still did it at that moment. You knew that you may hurt someone, you may be doing something that is not in favor of someone else, but you still chose to do it at that moment. What you know now is not what you knew back then. And that's something for you to understand very clearly within yourself. Who I am at this moment is not who I was at that moment. And who I am now may not have made that choice. But at that moment, that was the only choice that seemed like the right one. So when you blame yourself, what you are doing is judging a past version of you based on the knowledge that you have now. If you had the same knowledge back then, you wouldn't have done it. But you didn't have that knowledge. You didn't have that experience. You didn't know then what you know now. And blaming yourself for acting in a way based on what you thought was best is a way to only live in suffering now. That's all you're doing. You're carrying that guilt. So what do I do? How do I stop thinking about those mistakes that I've made? What you need to do is not carry that mistake any longer. The mistake that was made is not something that you can change. You may be able to do actions now to then rectify the problem. You may be able to do some good things now to change what happened and to try and fix the problem. But the act that was done in the past cannot be changed. So the only choice you have right now is, will I carry on carrying that burden, or can I make peace with myself to make a choice to let go of that burden? Can I let go of the mistake that was made? I accept that it was a mistake. I accept it wasn't the right thing to do. I accept that I know now what I didn't know then. I accept that I would not do that thing now, what I did back then. But I did it. It was there. I cannot change the past, but I choose happiness now. I choose to let go now of the past. That past is always going to be there. You're never going to be able to erase that past. But rather than carry that burden with you, you can leave it, so that as time moves on, you're getting further and further away from that trauma. You either carry that trauma with you every moment, or you let it go where it is and you move on. That trauma will never go away. It's always going to be there. But you don't have to carry it with you at every moment. And that's the only way to forgive yourself, to acknowledge that this was a mistake that I will not make again. It's not what I would have done, but it is what I did at the time, and that's what I felt was best. Know that this is something that only you can let go of. If people keep throwing your mistake back at you, then the only thing that you can do before you get anyone else's forgiveness is to forgive yourself. Forgive yourself first. Acknowledge the pain that you've caused others, but also acknowledge that that's not who you are anymore. Let go of being that person. Do not be that old you. Be the present version of you.
There's a question from Snowgore on Facebook asking, isn't spirituality your own independent internal development? Why do we need to attend institutes or Gurdwaras then?
It's a very important question. Is spirituality your own personal internal development? Why do we need to go to an institution or a Gurdwara? The truth of the matter is that there's only one place that you need to go, and that is within yourself. And we hear these almost cliche lines so often: spirituality is inside you, bliss is inside you, go within yourself. And the fact of the matter is, most people don't know what these lines mean. They don't know what it means to go within themselves. They think that listening to you, finding the deeper you, going within themselves means listening to their mind, following their own mind, following their own passions, not listening to anyone else, being confident and being independent. And that's simply not what any of that means. So the spiritual wisdom has been the same for thousands of years. The only reason you need a spiritual guide, the only reason you need to go and spend time learning this wisdom from an institution, call it a Gurdwara, a church, a temple, a mosque, the only reason you go there, the only reason you read spiritual wisdom, you spend time with other people, is so that you can go within yourself. You can learn how to go somewhere that you may never have known to go on your own. You can learn to find that space within you only through someone who has been there themselves within themselves. You need the help of someone who's done that in the past. But bear in mind, going to the Gurdwara isn't what it's about. It's about going, getting the instruction, and then going back, using that instruction to go within yourself, to know what is the experience of me being myself. What is it that I am? What do I call this me? Remember, Homme dirag rog hai, daru bhi isma hai. The biggest disease of mankind is the self-identification, is the I am, the me, myself. But the solution is also in the myself. Man tu jyot sarup hai, apna mool pachan. Oh, my mind, you are the embodiment of the divine light. Know yourself. So the myself is the problem, but going within myself is also the solution. Daru bhi ismae. Kirpa karije apne ta gur ka shabad kamaye. Only the lucky people are able to find a guide who gives them the wisdom, the Guru's Shabad, the wisdom of how to go within themselves, how to find that tranquility beyond, behind, and through that mud of the mind, through that dirt of the ego, through all of those layers and layers of conditioning and self-talk and identification and attachment, all of those layers that you have within you, you need a guide that shows you how do you transcend those, how do you get past all of those, how do you find the truest nature of yourself. So you need a guru, you need a guide, you need other people to show you what they have found within themselves. So you're absolutely right, you don't need to go anywhere, because the only place that you need to go is within yourself, but you do need a guide that shows you how to go within yourself.
The next question is about Mool Mantar. I have a question from the Mool Mantar. Onkar, what does that exactly mean? Does it mean to create?
So Onkar is a massive subject, and it's very important that you understand Onkar in the context of Ik. A lot of the times people talk about Ik and Onkar, and for those of you who are not familiar with this terminology, the very opening word, the first word of the scripture of Gurmat Saaheb Jee is Ik Onkar. And most of the time it gets bundled together, but I've created some videos which a lot of you will have come across before. And if those of you are familiar with it, the Mool Mantar series, I've gone through word by word what each word means. So I certainly recommend, for those of you who haven't seen it, please spend time going through the Japji Sahib playlist on YouTube or the Mool Mantar playlist on YouTube. We have roughly around 60 videos that goes through the entire composition of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, which is the first composition, spiritual composition of Guru Granth Sahib Ji. And I've gone through word by word what Ik means, Onkar means, Satnam, what all of those words mean. So it's a lot of things to cover. The Onkar alone is around 45 minutes to an hour. So there's a lot of context in there that you need to understand. So please do go have a look at some of that content as well.
So I hope that answers your question, Brian Bennett as well, who's asking, is Ik the Naam? Thank you to Shubham Sethi for your support and donation contribution as well. The next question is, I've seen a lot of your videos and I have come to understand Waheguru as an energy source within all rather than a supernatural God. However, is Waheguru still a supernatural God? I find the two things conflict in my own head, but Gurbani mentions Waheguru as Antarjane or Antarjami.
So the question is that after having watched a lot of the YouTube videos on the Nanak Naam channel, the person posing the question says, I understand that God is like the energy of the universe, is like the creative power of the universe, but a lot of people talk about God as this supernatural power, as a God, as a being. And I definitely, again, recommend that you go and look at the videos specifically on the YouTube channel called What is God? It talks a lot about how do we reframe our thinking to not think about God as this human character that we generally talk about in modern day culture. We talk about God as though it's like a father figure sitting in the clouds. But the question is specifically around Gurbani talks about God in this kind of way. You are the master, you are my father, you are my mother, you are the knower of my mind, you are the Antarjami. And it's only when we understand oneness. Remember, Guru Granth Sahib Ji starts with Ik Onkar, Ik, oneness. Most of us have not understood oneness. So when we read the rest of Guru Granth Sahib Ji, we read it in a very dualistic way of thinking. And let me clarify what I mean by that. Duality means I am here and everything around me is not me, is something else. And so the other people around me are not the same as me. They're different to me. I live here. So nature is different to me. The birds and the trees and the sky and the sun and the moon, they're all different to me. I'm here. That way of thinking is called duality. The two of life. I am here and everything else is far from me, is something else. The spiritual message of Guru Nanak starts with oneness. When we understand that we are not different to that which is separate from us, and even the God that we've been brought up praying to is not separate from us, then it changes our entire relationship with this God. We become part of that God. We become in that God, and that God becomes in us. So then the only place that you can go is to search within yourself to find or to realize that you are part of that oneness. And that way of thinking totally strips out this external God who is this father figure. When you understand God as this oneness, then you understand how to refer to the oneness within you as the mother, the oneness within you as the divine father, as the divine master, and the inner knower. Your root, the root of who you are, when you go back and you look at yourself, when you understand, I have a body, but I'm not my body. I have thoughts, but I'm not my thoughts. I have emotions, but I'm not my emotions. I have an identity, a sense of who I am, my sense of belonging within this body, but I'm not that. Behind all of those things, the root of who you are is what has been known in the ancient spiritual traditions as Sat Chit Anand, constant, conscious contentedness. Sat Chit Anand, the root of you is spiritual bliss. The root of you is awareness. Behind anything else, and this is not just something that you read in books, this is something you have to read within yourself. You have to go within yourself and work out, who am I? What am I? What is the root of who I am? When you understand the root of who you are is an aliveness, you are alert, you are awake, then you will understand that the inner knower, the antarjami, is that aliveness within you, is the same aliveness that is in everything else. When you don't know that, you translate it as a God who knows my thoughts. And the antarjami is not the God who knows my thoughts. It is the awareness that is aware of my thoughts. So I hope that makes sense. Please go look at some of the other videos that we've got. Just want to say last few thank yous because we're coming up to the end of the hour. Thank you to Preet Kaur for your very kind donations. Those of you who are donating, please do carry on supporting Nanak Naam. Thank you so much. We're going to try and go through as many of these comments that you've sent us. And just please continue to practice your spiritual practice in a way that is self-reflective. Go back and look within yourself. Please don't use these lectures as just nice information that you watch and then you forget about. Everything that I say is something to be practiced. Go and read the Bani, go and read the scriptures, read your spiritual awareness, read with spiritual awareness so that you're able to understand what the Bani, what the spiritual teachings are all about. And I hope you're all in peace. I hope to join you next Sunday. I hope that you can join us again for another live. And I'll just say my Fateh to you all. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
The question is, I personally choose not to use the word God. How does my interpretation of Gurbani interpret words like Waheguru? To me, all of these words are trying to give attributes to something that cannot be spoken of. Yeah? The word Wah just means wow. Guru means enlightener. Wow, enlightener. Is that a name of God, or is that an expression of somebody who is experiencing this oneness? The word Ram, that which is immersed, Ramya hoya, that which is immersed in everything. Hari, Har, that which is blossoming everywhere. Par Brahm, that supreme being. None of these are actually names. They're just pointers. Because Guru Gobind Singh Ji in Jap Sahib clarifies that whatever this thing is aname. Really has no real name. So when you think like that, then any word that you use, if it works for you to get you into that understanding of connectedness with this, whatever this is, this oneness, call it God, call it universe, call it life. I call it aliveness, life energy. Whatever word brings you back to that understanding is a good word for you. For me, the word God doesn't do that for me. Does that make sense? The word doesn't do that for me. I find universe to be a better word because I think this stuff. My mind goes outwards. It doesn't think that guy. With that understanding, is it fair to assume that Sikhism is not a theistic faith? If we say it's not theistic, then it becomes atheistic. As in, theism is the idea that there is some deity, some beingness. Most people translate the Sikh tradition as being monotheistic, single God, single theism, single being. I don't actually see it as monotheistic. I see it as panentheistic, which is not that there is some God sitting in the clouds with a white beard in the sky, but really everything is sacred. Whatever this thing is within me and all around me, as according to the Guru, as according to a Shabad that we've seen earlier today.
So in Japji Sahib, you start from God as one, Ek Onkar.
I don't.
So how does that go? Like, the first word what we say is
Yes.
Ek Onkar. So what does that mean by saying, when you say that there's no God,
Yes.
like it is all universe.
Yes.
So how that Guru Nanak Dev Ji by saying Ek Onkar means?
Guru Nanak Dev Ji says Ek Onkar. Guru Nanak Dev Ji does not say there is one God. He says Ek Onkar.
Okay.
Ek Onkar does not mean there is one God. Because the word God isn't in that statement. There's Ik, which we know means one, and then there's Onkar, which doesn't mean God. Onkar means an unfolding vibrational entity, an infinite unfolding. Onkar is this constantly changing, molding entity. It doesn't even say it's an entity, because Purkh doesn't come until the third word. Ek Onkar, Satnam, Karta Purkh, a being. That doesn't even come in until then. First, Guru Nanak Dev Ji says there's oneness and it is constantly unfolding. It's constantly oscillating. It's infinite. Onkar. It's just infinitely molding and moving and vibrating. One infinite vibration. Ik Onkar. Look how different that is to there is one God. Yeah? Remember who the people are that translated this stuff for us. The definition Ik Onkar, there is one God, is not a Sikh translation. The first people who came to translate this stuff were the European missionaries who came into India, and they said, what is this Ik Onkar business? And whoever tried to explain it to them, they said, oh, that sounds a bit like our thing. We've got this thing called God. Ik Onkar, one God. Okay, there is one God. And the Sikh community was not educated well enough in English back then to be able to challenge that. So they said, okay, If you say there is one God, then that's what ek onkar must mean, there is one God. And 250 years we're still stuck with that definition. It's time for us to take ownership of our own definitions. We've learned English now. We're able to push back a little bit. Great question. Why is it difficult for me to say there is one God? Because when you say God, what image comes in your mind? For most people, the image that comes in their mind is a male figure that's older than them and sits in the cloud somewhere. The word I have an issue with it. The word is not wrong. I have an issue with it. And I feel most people have the standard definition, because when you have the conversation with other people of other traditions, what definition are they using? Because if you borrow other people's terminology, you also inherit their understanding. So we might have these amazing interfaith discussions and everybody's saying, yeah, we're all talking about the same God. No, we're not. And I'm not trying to say the Sikhs are like this and the Hindus are like this and the Christians. I don't care. I don't want to make those divisions. I'm not trying to do that. But I'm not going to use a word that doesn't belong to the Guru's tradition. The Guru doesn't use a word like God. Why am I going to use a word like God? When you use a word like God, you inherit the understanding of that God. And to me, that God is not what ek onkar means.
You are comfortable with Rab?
Yeah. But what we've done, Punjabis are very clever. What we've done is every word, even in our mind, even if we don't use the word God, we think of that same God. Rab jane, God knows. Yeah? God knows, right? Same thing. Waheguru. When you talk about Waheguru janda. Kithe? Uppar wala. Where does this idea of uppar wala come from? In Punjabi, we're very comfortable with the word uppar wala. Right? Hindi, we use it as well, right? But Gurbani is saying, no, there's no uppar wala, there's andar wala. The one that's inside, not the one that's up there. So when you say God or Rab or Paramatma or Waheguru, you put your hands together and you look up. Right? God. Why? Because we've been colonialized. The Guru has an instruction. The Guru's instruction is Bahar Dundat Bahut Dukh Paave. Anyone who searches for this thing outside is going to fail. So when you look up, the Guru, I believe, will tell you you're looking in the wrong place. When you look down, you're looking in the wrong place. When you look within, that's where you need to find it. As soon as you look outside, what you do is you convince yourself that whatever this God thing is something outside, is greater than me, is beyond me. But it's not, it's in you, it's part of you. And the Guru's instruction to us, as I've understood it, and I really like your question there, because you've made it very clear, everything that I'm saying is not the truth. Everything that I'm saying is my interpretation. And thank you for clarifying that, because I say that quite a lot myself as well. Nothing that I say is correct. Please assume everything that I say is wrong. Assume that. Because it means that you'll go away and you'll say, I think I like what he says, but he might be wrong. Let me go and check. Get your own understanding. I am not here to be your teacher. I am not a teacher. Why? Because I'm a Sikh. I'm just another student. And we never graduate because we have a teacher. The Guru is the teacher. I cannot be your teacher. I can simply be another student that says, hey, you know what the Guru says? This is how I understand it. I can only ever give you my interpretation. So everything I say could be wrong. Please assume it's wrong so that you go away and you understand it. And then you come back and you tell me, hey, you're wrong there. I say, oh, thanks very much, because I'm willing to learn.
Hi, thanks for watching, and I hope you're enjoying our videos. Nanak Naam is all about simplifying the life-changing wisdom of Guru Nanak Dev Ji and making it freely available to everyone through online videos, podcasts, booklets and courses. And we need your donations to spread these teachings even further. Please set up a regular monthly donation by visiting nanaknaam.org/donate. With your support, we're taking Gurmat global. So Sandeep's asked this question around, is it okay to imagine a time or a place where you felt merged, and
how to feel the love,
and how to feel that love. Remember, like I just mentioned before, love is a grace. Love is something that is gifted. So you have to let go. If there is any expectation in meditation, that is a trap. The trap of meditation, the one thing that stops you, is that there is an I sitting here waiting for some God to come to me. When there is an I inside you, then the divine cannot come. And the way I like to describe it is, imagine in your mind, in yourself, there's one chair and only one seat. Either you can sit on that seat, or you get out of that seat and you realize that the divine is sitting there. As long as you're sitting there, the divine cannot be there. What that means is a very subtle understanding that even in your meditation, is there a me? Is there a me trying to find God? Is there a me waiting for God? And it's in those times where there is a me, there is an attachment to the myself, then the God feels like it's really far away. When you let go so deeply, and in the previous weeks that we've done the meditation, go and listen to those meditations where I talked about letting go of all of your worries, putting them down, and eventually letting go of the baggage of yourself. When you realize that you've been carrying the baggage of yourself, you must then feel free to let yourself go. When you let yourself go, what is left is a tranquility that was always there. So you can try and imagine those moments. Sometimes even in imagining those moments, you can feel that so much that you let go of it. There is no one magic formula. There are hundreds of different ways of meditation, and not all of those ways will work every single time for you. Sometimes the same way that you've tried that has been very effective for you will not work at this one moment. What do I mean by meditation working? Ultimately, in meditation, there is this desire to connect. There is a desire that I am experiencing my ego self most of the day, and for the short time that I have in meditation, I let go of that ego self. What becomes difficult is that if you spend 23 hours of your day in the ego self, in the me, then you are so used to being in that me that you also keep that me during the meditation. And you don't know how to let go of the me. So what you must do is, during your day, have moments of letting go of the me, of just in simple moments, interactions with the world, you realize, oh, here you are again. This is you. This is you walking. It's not my legs that are walking. It's your legs that are walking. This is you talking. You are the one speaking right now. This is you listening. So practice during your day letting go of the I, so that when you sit in meditation, you can also be more familiar with that space of letting go of yourself. So there's this idea of whether you're feeling this bliss in your mind and you don't know whether it's a trick or not. You don't know whether you're, and this is what I say, it's a very subtle game. It's a very subtle experience of, sometimes you say, I feel so much bliss, and then you've got to realize, is there a me? As long as there's a you haven't reached the pinnacle of what that meditative experience is. And it's so hard because you don't know what to do with that me. You've been carrying that me for so long. So one of the things I like to do during those moments is I say, I think, yes, there is still a me. Of course there's a me. But what do we mean by the me? What we mean by me is my mind has labeled the experience of presence and awareness within me as mine. I'll say that again. What do we mean by me? And this is going very deep into the experience of the ego itself. What do we mean by me? Me is just a word
that your mind has called the feeling of awareness inside you. We all have awareness, we all have alertness, we all have presence of being inside of us. Your mind has said, oh yeah, that's just me. There's nothing I can do about that. When you change the terminology, that being is also not me. I didn't create that presence in me. I have not created this awareness in me. This me is also you. This is why, personally, the ones who have been listening to me for the last few years I've shared with you so many times, the most powerful mantra for me has been, this is you. The words, this is you. When I realized that the experience of myself is also not myself, the experience of myself is also you, that is when the wave remembers that it cannot be a wave on its own. The wave has to be attached to the ocean. You've never been disconnected from the ocean. And you trying to connect with something greater than you will not work as long as you think it's far away. But once you remember, the wave is part of the ocean. The wave cannot be more than the ocean or separate from the ocean. You are part of the oneness, and the oneness is actually pretending to be you. The oneness is always inside you there. So once you know this wisdom, no matter what happens in meditation, sometimes this wisdom comes back and you let go and you feel this oneness and you experience the non-dual state. But a lot of the times it doesn't happen. All of these things are grace as well. This is why it's grace. Don't think it's effort. Let go of the effort and simply enjoy the experience. And when you're lucky, sometimes with practice, the Guru will remind you in your own words. It will say, hey, remember the wave is part of the ocean? And that's when the experience comes all of a sudden. So try those different things, but do have a sense of surrender and letting go, and just see, allow what happens. Hi, thanks for watching, and I hope you're enjoying our videos. Nanak Naam is all about simplifying the life-changing wisdom of Guru Nanak Dev Ji and making it freely available to everyone through online videos, podcasts, booklets and courses. And we need your donations to spread these teachings even further. Please set up a regular monthly donation by visiting nanaknaam.org/donate. With your support, we're taking Gurmat global.